Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Who I Hire podcast. The episode here is to give you a cheat sheet into how to get hired by some of the top managers in the top companies around Europe and the world. And today, I think we've got a great guest that ticks all of those boxes. Today, I'm joined by Syed Asad. Syed, I've got an intro for you here, and I hope I'm on point with this. But basically, you have the experience in doing one of the hardest things in business, which is you've been building sales and customer success teams from zero in many cases throughout your experience. You've not only joined teams, but you've also built them and optimized them. Syed's been experienced enough to do this at places like Live Chat, at Positionally, at Presley, and even most recently, the Hubstaff, where you joined the company doing $31 million a year and left it doing $320 million a year. Now, you are the founding sales at Softr. I hope I pronounced that right, buddy. You can correct me in a second. And I'm laughing because he says, on the side, you run Messy Growth, which, to be honest, for me, is by far my favorite content right now for people working in SaaS and growth. This is a super successful, super valuable podcast episode series that Syed is running. I'll make sure that there's a link to the comments to catch that show as well. Syed, did I do it justice? What have I missed? I'm so happy that you're here, buddy.
Yeah, that is you're too kind. Thank you so much. I think I've done a little bit of everything, but I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Perfect. I mean, Syed, you were like the top person that I thought about here. I mean, this show, for anyone that's listening to the first time, what we are trying to do here is we know on the recruitment market right now, it's a little bit crazy. And one of the things that triggered this show for me, Syed, was that I saw even a very top level recruitment expert writing that right now candidates can be doing everything right and still not get hired. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's a really painful experience to be in. And there must be ways that we can help that. But of course, right now there is very little standard in the way that we recruit company to company. So all I could think about was, hey, listen, let me go and get some people that I know
Mm.
have both experienced this as an employee, but also have been an employer. And today, my goal is to get out of you and to ask you some questions to find out what works for you. And like I said, this is for me almost like a cheat sheet. If Syed is employing in down the road and is opening a role, I'm really hoping people find this episode and it will tell them the insights into what you are looking for. So, I mean, what's your take in in recruitment right now in general? What are you seeing on the market? I mean, I think me and you have always been lucky that
Yeah.
we've still close enough to being employees. We remember going for jobs while we've been also doing a lot of recruitment. Like, what are your thoughts on the space right now as a whole?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think I was speaking to somebody on my podcast about it, and 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 12 years ago, when I started my career about 13 or so years ago, I mean, you would just go ahead and apply for a job. You're probably competing with about 100 people. It's fairly local. Folks are not that experienced in SaaS, and pretty much now, if you look about it, there's just so much noise. From
Yep.
AI-generated resumes to cover letter. Now every CV has a cover letter, and it's bespoke and it's sublime, and you know it, right?
Yep.
You catch it right, and you go, "Ah, God, it's generated by AI." Folks are optimizing for keywords, right? Naturally,
Yep.
ATSs are filtering things out. You know that space a lot better than most. There is just so much that is happening, massive application volume. There's just so much noise. So both
Yep.
managers and candidates, I feel like they're all competing with the system, and it's, going through AI, and they're all optimizing for something, but it's definitely not what should be done when it comes to recruitment. I mean, recruitment should be fairly easy. You have experience. It's kind of like sales, right? You have a
Yep.
product. I have a need. We both meet and we hash things out for the most part. And it feels like somewhere along the lines, there has been an absurd amount of complexity that has been introduced, and I don't know why and who it benefits, but we are over indexing for a lot of different things on both ends.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I fully agree. I mean, again, when I looked at this space and I started talking to hiring managers and candidates, it was quite surprising for me to find out that they were both unhappy with the
Yeah.
experience. Yet in society, applying for jobs and hiring people is something that is not going away. We will
No.
have to do. We've been doing this for hundreds of years, and we will be doing it
Oh,
for
yeah.
hundreds of years. So, yeah, I mean, I think that you're on point. That this is potentially a simple process being made extremely complicated by for no particular reason. But I also do understand that a lot of the time what happens is when we have a process that should be simple and it didn't work the way we thought, like, hey, listen, I applied for 10 jobs. I was good for those 10 jobs and I didn't get any of those 10 jobs. I must have to change something. I must have to hack this system a little bit. And by
Yeah,
hacking and changing, we are maybe where we find ourselves today.
yeah.
But Syed, can you give me an insight, like just so the listeners know your experience and what kind of recruitment experience we're going to be talking about today? What are the typical roles you've been hiring for over your previous positions? I know that obviously
Yeah.
you are heavily into sales yourself, but what kind of roles have you hired for?
Yeah, generally anything from SDRs to AEs to customer success managers,
Yeah.
for the most part, is my wheelhouse. I have been fortunate enough to be involved in VP marketing hires, VP revenue hires, CRO, and that sort of thing. I guess when you are a C level, C suite, you generally have that insight of like anybody who's getting into the company, into the C suite,
Hmm.
or becoming a exec. You naturally will be involved in the hiring process just to make sure that you're, I guess, for a lack of a better way, weeding out bad candidates. Just essentially, like we talked about in the beginning, folks are just indexing for those things. That how should we not, we want to find the ideal candidate, so to speak. But mostly me, SDRs, AEs, so both left hand of the bow tie of revenue, which is acquisition, and then right hand of the bow tie, which is retention, is kind of like my
Hmm.
wheelhouse for the most part.
Perfect. And if you can, if you look back now and or maybe I mean, I can imagine that this might still be very fluid and adapting. Like, if you are opening, let's say, a recruitment for an SDR or an AE, something like that kind of level, what's your ideal process? Like, what would you look at? How many did you want to meet them a couple of times? Do you use tasks? Like, what's a really standard recruitment process for you? Or maybe you're
Yeah.
like, hey, listen, I meet these people once and I know. Like, you don't like to keep it What are you looking at?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever met anybody right away. I know it takes me a couple of times to get the vibe, but I think
Yep.
5, 10 minutes into the conversation, I'm 80% positive that that person might be a good fit.
Yep.
It's just the energy that they have. And I think I love people who lead with curiosity. They're not indexing for the fact that, they have that experience. Like, they're just curious about
Yep.
what you're doing. And it
Yep.
becomes a kind of like a working session of questions. Oh crap, your retention, your churn is high. Hey, have you tried that? Even though we have, it's great that that person is thinking from that lens, because
Yep.
they're already thinking by being in that seat, so to speak. But I would say my hiring process generally is one of the most unorthodox one that I have seen or I have experienced for the most part. I've hired people in one day. I would have a conversation with them at 10 a.m.
Hmm.
And at 2 p.m., I'm like, dude, let's have another conversation. Like, I can't stop
Yep.
thinking about this. Let's have another chat. And they're like, well, let's do it. And then at 5
Yep.
p.m., they're chatting to an AE that I trust and they have been my oldest hire. And I'm like, just culture fit them, just test them out, just give them all their, like, this is the opportunity for you, like the candidate, to ask as many questions as you like about the company, and for the AE to figure out whether or not they can work with that person, right? Because that's the
Yep.
ultimate litmus test, so to speak. If they find something that is off, the whole thing is scrapped off the table. We had this
Hmm.
practice back when I used to work at Positionally, where Greg, the CEO, would randomly take to the last interview or an in-person interview a random person from the office, and they would go eat lunch. And that person's job was two things Greg was doing, and I didn't realize it back then. One was that he's leveling people up and giving them experience of how to interview people. That's number one. Number two, he's trying to figure out whether or not that person can work with the person we're looking to hire. And if that person would
Yep.
say, hey, you know what, Greg, something's off here, Greg would say, yeah, fantastic. Even if the candidate was great up to that point, it's that litmus test where I picked it up from there was just great. So I've hired people on day one. Literally, I'm like, dude, let's just do these conversations, figure it out. I'm like, right to my
Yep.
CEO, I'm like, Jared, I found that person. He's like, yeah, just go for it. If you have this gut
Yep.
feeling, just go for it. I've hired people within 2 days where I'm like, I just can't do it. And then of
Yeah.
course
Yeah.
I worked with companies where, there is like interview one with the recruiter, interview two, 3 days later with the VP or the hiring manager, interview three, and then you do
Hmm.
a case study and so on and so forth. I'm not a huge fan of these different steps because there is a lot of anxiety that you're a hiring manager. I know for a fact that if you're looking to hire somebody and you recently were somebody for the position of CRO or revenue position, you need somebody yesterday. Why would you want to
Mm-hmm.
go through 500 people to find the right candidate? If you have found the right person, there is no next. Are your indicators marking you and telling you that this is the right candidate? If it is, just run with it.
Yep.
Roll the dice. 9 out of 10 times, that's going to be the great decision you're going to end up making. Or you can be that person that continues to find the right restaurant for about an hour and a half, and by the time you get there,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're so exhausted because you've exerted so much of your mental capacity, you can't even enjoy that meal, and you will still find things to point out what is wrong with that particular meal. So I'm just very unorthodox. I go through
Yep.
CVs. I don't wait for recruiters. I'm like I want a candidate. Like what's let's get down and dirty and try to figure out who that is. People would love you for it because they love the fact
Mm-hmm.
that you're fast. They love the fact that you are
Yep.
in a rush. You're there, and they get excited if you tell them like, dude, I can't stop thinking about our conversation. I want to talk more. I
Yep.
want to talk more. I want to just give me your cell number. I'll call you. And that's where
Yep.
your sales aspect comes in. I'm like, I don't care if I'm the one following up or I'm calling. No, we are here to work together. So let's try to build that relationship from that lens. So like mine is like atypical
Yep.
expertise as opposed to anything else in this area.
No, I mean, I've got a follow up question to that, but I want to like this for me, like I have the same approach, and I think this comes from our sales experience,
Yeah,
because in sales, the time is always the enemy. You don't
100%.
let a lead slow down. You don't slow it down on purpose. And yet in recruitment, this happens so often.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, thank you for the meeting. We'll get back to you in 2 to 3 weeks. Now, we know, and I have to challenge this. Like you said, I'm the same person that I probably know within 5 minutes of the conversation how convinced I am or not. I don't need two
sure.
weeks to deliberate. And what we are normally doing is, I think the key is sadly, is that most recruiters and most jobs, so what we're doing is we want to compare. We want to
Mhm.
feel better about our choice. So we want to slow it down so that we can
Sure.
see the other candidates, which for me, again, you are running the risk that by the time you go back to the candidate number one, they are already gone and they already moved on. But Sayed, you said something that was
Mm.
very important here. Like, how much do you rely or how much do you like to rely on other people inside the company to help you with your decision? You talked about these kind of great tactics like go sit down with a coworker or do I want to talk to HR or not? Like in a typical recruitment process, do you rely on other people's opinions? And if so, by how much? How much does that help you in your decision?
Yeah, when I was building out the team, like understand that with Hubstaff, I started the first ever sales team. I
Yep.
grew it to about 8 or 9 people, or eight and a half, and then I built the customer success team and grew it to about 11 people. When the team was just starting out, I was not asking for other people's opinions because, frankly
Yep.
speaking, there was nobody that could gauge that person correctly or in the right way because the job was such a new thing in that particular company. We didn't have the
Yep.
notion of retention at that point. It was just customer support for the most part. So
Yep.
I would just do it myself. But when the team starts to grow, say 4, 3 people, it is now your fiduciary responsibility as a manager to make sure you get somebody's buy-in. Why? Because
Hmm.
these people are going to be working together. I
Yep.
have been a huge proponent of people don't work for me, people work with me, and I'm there to serve them. I know in
Hmm.
hierarchy, we as managers or VPs are the ones that are at the very top. I get it, sure, because we're responsible and answerable for everything that is going on. But for me, the most critical component is that am I serving these people who are choosing to work 8, 9, 10 hours a day with me or alongside me? So I try to involve them, or at least one person every time, similar to the Greg thing that we did at Positionally. Can you check something maybe I'm missing because I'm getting way too excited and ahead of myself?
Hmm.
And there have
Hmm.
been times where I have gotten ahead of myself because I am again as a manager, I'm not perfect. Obviously, I have a need, which is to employ someone to in that position because I got a book of business to manage or I got a target to hit. And I'm looking
Hmm.
at it from that lens. And in that heat of moment, even though I'm slowing down, I'm trying to figure out, am I getting everything right? It is great to get a perspective of another person who does that on a day to day and you go, Said, I can't see the connect. There's something missing here. And the
Hmm.
moment they say that, it's kind of like, there's a scene in Molly's Game, the movie, where the guy who's winning is on a hot streak. He never loses, plays safe bets, but he loses that hand in poker and a switch flips and he starts
Hmm.
losing. It's just like the streak starts. And that's that thing that they will highlight something. And I'm like, wait a second. Let me just go back on my notes. Ah, you're right. There are
Hmm.
some holes here that potentially would be a good idea to try to dig deeper into. Slow down. So, like I said, it's unorthodox because I have tried to do that in like 1 day, 2 days. It works great at times, but there's sometimes it can be disastrous. So you have to look at it on a case to case basis. I highly doubt that there is one perfect setup that works for everyone. Maybe when
Sure,
you're
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
working out,
Yeah.
sure, but when there is a variable involved that you can't control, and that is people, and
Yep.
you have to also factor in these are people with responsibilities, with loved ones
Yeah.
to take care of. You're essentially making a very think about it, and a core, it's a very pivotal decision for that particular person. How
Yeah.
can you do them and yourself justice? Slow down a
Yeah.
little bit, get somebody involved because those people are going to be working day to day. That person will respect you regardless because you're
Yeah.
cutting the proverbial paycheck, so to speak. But these people on the line are going to be working together mostly, and you got to make sure you get their feedback. So that's kind of like my take to it.
Yeah. And I think that's, this is something because I think, from the candidate perspective, this is something where I think candidates get the most confused. And because what I mean is like when a candidate meets the hiring manager, you're
Mhm.
in interview mode, you're in, discussion mode. And then when you meet a different member of that company, whether or not it's HR or whether or not it's a coworker, I think this is where you get most confused because I think candidates start to overthink it and they're like, okay,
Sure.
right, well, this they either talk to the coworker like they were in an interview with the manager, and the coworker's like, this is weird. Like, you don't have to prove yourself to me. Or they go the other way, which I've seen as well, which is where candidate will go, right, so this is a coworker, so I can start to assert my dominance here and show how cool I am. And
Yeah.
then coworkers get the ick. Yeah, they just don't feel the culture side of it. And I
100%.
think the key is if you're a candidate is like if you are out, I mean, if you are outside that hiring manager interview space, you've still got to you've got to prep a little bit for who you are meeting next. If it's a coworker, be yourself, be more natural. This is very much probably where, like you said, I think the coworker is going to be judging your ability to work together, not your
Yeah.
knowledge, not your experience, but would I like to come in and see you on a Monday morning and work with you? So you've got to go back into character mode, not into show off
Yeah.
mode, not into impress mode, I think. And this
Yeah.
is super, super interesting. Say, like,
100%.
um, what's the best thing a candidate has done to get hired by you? Can you think about any specific instance or something that impressed you where you were like, oh, I've not had that before?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Uh, I've had the good fortune. It's a privilege to be in this side of the table where you get the people
Sure.
to come to you and they're looking for a gig. Um, it's a very humbling feeling. Honestly, I haven't gotten used to it, and it's been years at this particular point. But
Mhm.
the one candidate that stands out is Rohit Khatri. He's from Chennai,
Okay.
India, and he used to
Mhm.
work with me at Hubstaff. He's still there at Hubstaff. He
Yep.
was my hire number 3 in the sales team. I wasn't looking for anybody at that moment. I wasn't
Okay.
looking to
Okay.
hire a person, but he reached out
Yep.
to me on LinkedIn and he did a lot of his research. We still to this day, whenever we meet, we joke about that. Um, he did his research. He tried to figure out who I was. He went through my website, hustlex.io. Back then, I used to try to record or do a blog. And he did his research. He reached out to me saying, "Syed, if you take a bet on me, you will not regret it."
Mhm.
And I'm willing to go all the way. And it was interesting. I wasn't looking for it, and I always check my LinkedIn messages. It's just somebody who I am. I don't care if you're in spam or
Yeah.
whatever. I haven't gotten that big where I wouldn't check people's messages. Like I will
Sure.
check every single message. I replied to them, I was like, let's have a chat. And that person literally, he to this day will tell you the exact date and time for when I
Ah.
replied back to the message and
Yep.
when I replied back to the second message and what date it was. And it's just not because he's good with at math or with memory. It's because that particular moment meant that much to him for the
Sure.
most part. He saw that as a
Yep.
way that, hey, I want to work with you, not at
Yep.
Hubstaff. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool because I've never had people wanting to work with me. They would be wanting to work with company. They might want to work with traffic. They might
Yep.
want to work with software, but not with me
Yep.
directly. So there's just like a weird turn of events. And I think I
Sure.
hired him within 3 or 4 days of our first call that we had. I just
Yep.
called him literally very unorthodox for India, where I just called him on his cell from my air call. And I was like, dude, yeah, I want to work with you. Job is yours. But like, let's hash out the finer details. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah.
That was literally it. It was just a message that I wouldn't have otherwise seen if he wouldn't have messaged because that's how long
Yeah. Yeah.
how small of an effort that it took to get there.
Yeah. I mean, and I mean, I again, I totally. relate to this, because what I mean is that sometimes as candidates we forget that it's still a human on the other side of this recruitment process.
100%.
It's still an individual person that does things that you do. They watch Netflix, they go, they have families,
100%.
etc. And if you can make that hiring manager feel like the first thing is that you are messaging just them. It's like it's truly you. It's not AI anymore. This is a different topic maybe for later, but fundamentally, if you can show them that you are pumped and excited about even the
Yeah.
opportunity, it goes a long way, right? It goes a real long
100%.
way.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so I have to give a shout out because I still to this day remember one of the most impressive things from my side was a very smart person called Gloria Cavula,
Mhm.
who wanted to work at Brand 24 back in the day. And what she did, which was super smart, was she made a post saying that I want to work at Brand 24, and then knew that we were monitoring the keyword so that it would come through.
Right on.
And she literally so she referenced the product again, and it wasn't a lot of work. It probably was, but it was just that thinking of like, and this is again, I think we are a little bit privileged. We have this from sales and with salespeople is how does the manager want to receive this message? Not what do I want to say,
Sure.
what do they want to get in return? So no, that's also. I mean, it it kind of leads to another question that I have. Well, we'll keep it here,
Mhm.
which is can a candidate get hired by you even when you don't have an open role? Now seems to be one of the cases. Has this happened? And even to this day, would you still welcome people pitching you out of the blue, even if you're not openly saying I'm hiring?
Yeah. I have a rule when talent comes knocking, you answer the call. It's as simple as
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like in sales, and a lot of my kind of like thesis how it evolves into hiring comes a lot from sales is that
Hmm.
if you keep knocking the door, you keep calling, and you keep following up on the down period, you sure as hell are going to have a lot to do in your
Yeah.
busy period. Because
Yep.
you're shucking your oysters, so to speak, for the time when it's really starts to get busy. So you have a pipeline, so to speak. If a talent is there and is knocking on your door and they're qualified for the job, you answer it. I have gone to bat for people within the
Yeah.
company when we did not have budget. And I was like, we got to hire this particular person. I like
Hmm.
this person. Let's carve out budget. Forget it. Cut it out of my paycheck a little bit if you have to, because I know for a fact our company, look at the companies out there. They're all growing. They naturally
Hmm.
are. I mean, if they're not growing, you have a different problem to tackle not hiring front. But if you
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
growing and it's going to continue to grow, and if you can foresee a problem, that's your job as a manager to make sure how to keep this thing going 365 days a year and
Yeah.
continue to scale. And you know that this is coming, and there's a candidate here that fits the bill. Get him in, get him up and running because it's going to take a few weeks or at least months to get them up on a full ramp and
Yeah.
run with it. The book of business will come. We'll figure
Yeah.
out a way to do a pipeline. But this candidate we don't want to miss because that is exactly what we're looking for. He or
Yeah.
she fits the profile of the person that would work or thrive well in this particular environment. Um, yeah, the answer is hell
Yeah.
yes, every single
Yeah.
time. I would always answer or at least talk to people and hire them. And I have done that over countless times where somebody
Yeah.
came in, I wasn't looking for it, and I was like, let's find a position. Like if you're a 30, 40, $50 million company, you can pay 100 grand. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's but that one candidate, strong one, is going to catapult you in a lot of different ways that you can't foresee right now. So the
Yeah.
answer to that is always
Cool. I mean, again, again, I'm asking this question because I'm a big advocate of this. I think when I've got a number of people that kind of come up to me over the year and they'll be like, "Oh, Mick, I'm on the market right now. My position changed. I'm looking for no. Can you recommend me to anywhere
yeah,
else look?" And I said, the first advice I always give them is, do not only go to the job boards. Like, think who do you
absolutely.
want to work for? Who do you genuinely want to work for? And go tell them that you want to work for them. Like, go tell them now. Don't be wrong. I think from there are probably, I think there are probably managers out there less receptive to that kind of thing than me and you. Where what I mean is, I think that the candidates, my recommendation to candidates would be, you also have to include in that message why and
Sure.
possibly even what you're going to make better. Yeah. So I would love
Yeah.
to work for your company. This is why, and this is what I can improve for you from the outside, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think we can't rely on managers to do the effort of going, oh, they want to work for me. I'll go check. their history, their
For sure.
experience. But yeah, I think again we are in sales, right? We answer every LinkedIn, and this is something that I think
Yeah.
is important.
I also want to preface here is just one thing is that I fortunately or unfortunately haven't been in a position where there has been a barrage of messages of people wanting to work with me.
Yeah,
I'm not at 11 labs, so to speak, or lovable,
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
have people, hundreds of people ask me, "Oh, so I don't want a job." For me, this is a pretty privileged position. Like I said before, if
yeah,
anybody wants to work,
yeah,
and I treat it as that. I
yeah,
am not sure. I'm not in those managers' position that get hundreds of messages every week on LinkedIn.
yeah,
Maybe my posture will change. Maybe my positioning will change. But I just know one thing is for me, and this is again coming back to sales. I just when I see that there is a lack of something, I pounce. I
yeah,
just jump on everything, and I operate out of a mind of fear, so to speak. Is that talent is
yeah,
limited. There's a lot of good people out there, but there's not a
yeah,
lot of good people that would potentially get to you. So if there's one that has found you, and
yeah,
for whatever reason stars have aligned, leverage that. It's
yeah,
kind of like you go to a store and you find a shoe or a shirt, and you're like, I don't. But then you think about it, like, God damn, like,
sure.
why didn't I buy it? I wish I could have bought. I would
Yeah,
look
yeah,
good. Just do it.
yeah.
Just do it. You will not regret it.
Yeah, love it. And so, the flip side of that story is, and I think again, with the frame of mind here that we want to give this kind of cheat sheet to the candidates
Sure.
listening, which is, um, what has a candidate ever done, or what could they say that is an instant turn off? I mean, for me, I
Mm.
have them, but can you remember
Yeah.
a case of like what are the things that as soon as you heard it, or as soon as you saw some kind of the way that they behaved or something like that, that you're like, it's not for me.
Yeah. I don't know if there is one thing that the candidate can say that would be instant turnoff because, like I said before, I've done a lot of things on interviews where I have said things that I wish I didn't or regretted later
Sure.
on. And if I was judged based on that one sentence or word,
Yep.
I don't think that would have been fair, and I wouldn't have had a lot of the opportunities that I've been grateful to have. So I've
Yep.
never judged people on one thing they say. I judge based
Yep.
on their demeanor and the way they conduct that interview.
Mhm.
Please remember, it's not me conducting the interview; it's both parties. They're trying to
Ab
figure out whether or not it's a fit
absolutely.
for them. I'm trying to figure out whether or not it's a fit for me, and I am an ambassador for this company. My job is to do my job justice.
Yep.
So it's not one thing; it's their demeanor. One thing that for me is like an instantaneous, not just a turn off, or I guess something that I would reject that candidate if that
Yep.
candidate is not curious.
Mhm.
I want
Yep.
curious people that ask questions and they're
Yep.
important. You said something pretty important in the previous segment that we talked about is doing research on the why.
Yep.
I think that is critical. Sure, I will still figure out who that candidate is, go to their LinkedIn profile, do my due diligence as much as I could in the few minutes that I can or I can
Yep.
expend to that particular candidate. But in this case, you got to be curious and you got to ask me questions about the
Yep.
role, about the company. If you're not curious, to me, at least in my experience, that person is looking for a job, not this job, and they're
Yep.
probably disengaged. And if they're
Yes.
not asking questions at the most critical component and junction, which is they're looking to get hired, they sure as shit are not going to be asking very great questions when they're in the middle of the job, when they know they're
Yep.
semi secure. And that's
Yep.
something I cannot have. I need people that are curious.
Yeah, and I think that, it's funny because this is not just a sales thing. I think
Sure.
that, if you're applying for a job as an accountant, you should be asking questions. If you're
Mhm.
applying to work in the local Starbucks, you should be asking questions. I think it's a sign of, like you said, inquisitive people who are curious are probably the people who are going to think, how can I do this better?
Sure.
I fully agree. And I mean, and I've got this here as a point, and I think, like you said, I know it's an overall thing for you, but you know, do you remember any really impressive questions you got from candidates? And I'll give you a second to think about that, because the one for
Uh,
me that
that's a good one.
always got me was, the first question was like, "Oh, did someone fill this role before me?" Yes, and then they would be like, "What could they have done better?"
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, that's a great question. Let me," and then I would probably monologue for like 20 minutes about
Yeah.
what could be changed. But do you remember any questions from your side of any of your candidates, or
Yeah.
questions that like you're looking for them to be? What kind of curious do you want them to have?
Yeah. I think like the strongest question a candidate asked me is like, what differentiates folks that succeed here in this particular role long term than people who actually struggle? And
Yep.
the reason
Yeah, yeah.
And I've thought about it a long time. Why it's strong is because it shows maturity and self-awareness, for the
Yep.
most part. Again, coming back to the
Yep.
curiosity and that person is thinking, they're thinking long term. I also think it focuses a lot on performance and
Hmm.
fit of that particular person to this role as opposed to any sort of perks or anything. And I know as companies, we like to talk, there's a lot of buzzwords. You got PTO, you got company retreat. Greg, get it. I want insight into real culture that is beyond all of this stuff.
Yep.
Um, right. And yeah, that for me just shows like the person is thinking about actual ownership. And it's a question that I really enjoy for the most part.
Yeah, this thing stuck with me for a while. I remember when I was young, probably like 21 years old, and I got a job in a sales job. And to be honest, I didn't think I was probably the best person for it, etc. And then the manager, after I was onboarded, said, like, Mick, like, you know the reason why I hired you? And I was like, not really. Like, let's go for. He was like, in the interview, you asked me what was the salary when I was on target. I never asked about the base. Now, this was not on purpose. This was me being a young person going like, I wonder what I will earn if I like actually hit the
OT.
goal. And he was so impressed that I was talking about being on target already. Yeah. And it
Yeah,
stuck with me that there are questions that matter. And I think that I do think that my advice to candidates is, even if it sounds a little bit awkward, which is you have to ask questions. Even
sure.
if your hiring manager is doing a great job of explaining everything possible, prep two, three, four, five questions, and even if you ask one or two of them, okay, but I think it's vital.
Yeah, I'll tell you the simple thing, right? You're going to a job, you're going to work physically at least 8 hours. Most of the conventional jobs
Hmm.
that we do that are 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 or what have you. And you're going to think about that job post the fact that you're outside and or
Yep.
outside of the working
Yep.
hours. So a large part of your daily life and weekly and monthly is going to be spent working at this role.
Yep.
And if you're not asking questions or you're not curious about your trajectory in life while you're working bulk of your day at a particular job,
Yep.
you need to rethink and reevaluate what is important to you. When I go to a doctor, I have 1,500 questions when they tell me something. That's because my health is important to me. And
Hmm.
it's just similarly how I operate when somebody tells me, "Hey, you got to pay that for this work that we did on your land." Great. I have
Yep.
14 questions. Okay, how much does it cost per square meter? What did you use here? N because
Hmm.
I'm curious, I just that's part of the way reason I have messy growth because I want to learn from people, but it's
Yep.
just because I'm paying for something and I worked hard
Yep.
for I wanna know, dude, like, what exactly is it that is being allocated to it? You gotta
Yep.
ask questions for things that are important to you, and if it's money, shit, ask that. If it's
Yep.
holidays, ask that, ask something, but if it pertains to your role, try to nail that first before you go to the other aspect of things because it's just genuinely comes off as a little bit better. And this is something where I
Yep.
could be a little bit more performative, and you have to be because it's role first, perks later. Sort of
Yep.
thing, at least in my mind.
Perfect. And so I've got a question, and I probably am going to take you up a level here. So now maybe not. Let's count out like the SDR type roles,
Sure.
but like maybe even up to. And my question is like, can an underqualified person win you over? And if yes,
Yeah.
how? And I'm going to add a um, little rule to this question.
Sure.
Because let's imagine that, the first thing you're going to, let's say we've got 100 candidates, and I know that you probably can't call all 100 of them and ask them and find that out. What could an underqualified person do firstly to get through the door for you? And then are you open to hiring underqualified people? And how would that work if I was an underqualified candidate and you were opening for a BDR, but I know that I'm starting out as an SDR. What can I do?
Sure.
And what's your approach to kind of people who are underqualified on
Yeah.
paper?
I'll I'll try to answer this the best I can, but my answer
Yeah,
might be a little bit skewed.
it's okay.
Because
Yeah,
I have been an underqualified candidate in most of the
sure,
jobs that I have gone into. My recent
sure.
role at VP Sales and Success with Hubstaff, company got acquired by private equity. We exited out. I was underqualified because when I was in the boardroom, I was the youngest person there, and I also happened to
Sure,
be the person responsible for both revenue and retention, two of the most
sure.
critical components of a business. So I saw the looks that they were giving me. I tried to hold myself as much as I try to punch above my weight, be prepared before. I was in Atlanta for a full week. We were going through private equity companies, and they were in a boardroom.
Yeah,
They would grill you right, left, and center. So
Yeah.
me, I am always not just standing up for the little guy, but at the same time, I'm always just in my heart, I'm like, and when I'm giving notes over to my CEO, it's like, hey, you're about to interview that person. Love that guy. This is this, or love this girl. She's just,
Yeah.
I always try to play them up. So, me personally, if you're underqualified, you would have a much better shot with me as a hiring manager,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm always rooting for the folks that have something to prove. Um, that are, because I'm at a stage in my life where my kids are growing up. I've held a few roles and titles, and I've slowed down. Like my eye of the tiger is there, but I wouldn't take an 11 p.m. call anymore. Personally, probably
Sure.
because I need the sleep and I just don't have that. But I
Mhm.
know when I was younger and I had things to prove, I would actually go ahead and do that and take the 2 a.m. call and so forth. I know
Yeah.
that the person who is more often than not, that is underqualified is going to go way ahead than the person who
Mhm.
knows in their head that, hey, like I've earned this,
Yep.
I've worked hard for it, so on and so forth. So that's number one, which is
Yep.
me. I'm always rooting for the person who's underqualified. How you could go about doing it? It's pretty simple. Is what I tell people who are in the company and trying to look for a promotion.
Yep.
What exactly is it that the person does that you're looking to vie out for the promotion for, and just do it. Just do it, continuously do it to the point when they were like, well, wait a second, why don't you have this job already for sport, right? So if you're an
Sure.
SDR, I don't know, a BDR going to an account executive territory, or you
Yeah.
want to become an AE. I've had AEs switch over to CSMs and CSM role folks switch over to AE. Not a problem at
Yep.
all. They didn't have any experience, but just tell me how you do it. Just tell me how you would do it. And
Yep.
here's the critical component where what I love, and I think people they overlook. Ask for help. Say, hey, I want to break into this particular thing. I'm good. These
Yeah.
are the skills that I bring on. I love your company. I love the fact that you guys do this. I want to grow in that space, but I need guidance and help in order to be able to get to that.
Yep.
You'd be surprised how many good managers, I've had a fair share of looking at crappy ones, but good managers would say, I'd like to bring that person under my wing, so to speak, and help them
Mhm.
grow in that particular role. So you're kind of like
Gotcha.
flipping, you're doing a Uno reverse card, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're not only asking for a gig, you're doing a double tap. You're also asking for the fact that, hey, not only do I want this, I also want
Yeah.
to grow in this. And I, Saeed, or I, Mick, I need your guidance to be able to help me do that. And you kind of like, now you're like, crap, I got this person,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah. Yeah.
extremely
Yeah. Yeah.
talented. They need my help. It's one of those things where you talked about in the very beginning, there's a human behind the screen. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm at
Yeah.
a stage where my kids are growing up and I look at it like if my kid was looking for an opportunity, I would want a decent manager on the other side, a hiring manager that
Yeah.
would help them grow as opposed to put them down. You lift
Yep.
them up because a lot more can be accomplished. So that's what I would do. I've had people do that where they've asked for help, and I feel personally responsible to make sure that they're on the right path. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
again, I can't emphasize enough, like, please, like, forget social media for just a minute.
Mhm.
Forget everything for a minute. If you're hiring people, you're in a position to have an exponential amount of impact in somebody's life. That is a job
Yes.
that you should think about, like really think about that
Yeah.
the way you talk, the way you speak, the way you converse, the way you write that Slack message, the way you conduct yourself has an exponential amount of impact on the person that is working with you because you
Yeah.
have an exponential amount of control over their livelihood and their future, especially in a job market like we have right now. So that tactic, I guess it's not really a tactic, sure, we could call it that,
Mhm.
works for me because I then
Yeah.
feel responsible to make sure that when you go up, put the ladder down. That's what I love what you do on LinkedIn. You're like, hey, I
Yeah.
got a candidate here. You're promoting
Yeah.
people. You got to put the ladder down. That's the only way we move up. And the best feeling to do that is, of course, bring people up alongside us.
Yeah. I think, and I think it's a sign, like you said. Like, I mean, I'm also. I think it's a great tactic. I'm not. It's not even a tactic. It's a great human trait what you just mentioned, which is, if you are a candidate, like, and you know that you're in a role that you're not going to be a slam dunk day one, talk
Sure.
about it, and but bring people on that journey with you. I mean,
Sure.
it's a sign of humility, which, to be honest, for most hiring managers, I think that they need to see that. They need to see that someone they know their limits, they know
Sure.
what they're good at, they know what they're
Sure.
bad at, etc. I think that's a super big part of that as well. But I really like this that you said that. you're talking already about, oh well, if you hire me, we're on this together. And
Yeah.
I think that's actually a great thing to take away from this, which is, you can include that person on the other side of the table in the conversation, in the story together with them. Um, no, so, Syed, I've the last kind of as we're going through this kind of journey of a
Yeah.
recruitment for candidates today, which is, what are your thoughts and how would it work for you if a candidate kind of, I don't want to use the word push back, but kept going. And then what I think is really interesting, which we see in recruitment right now, which is um, candidates are still confused about follow ups. So let's say you applied
Yeah.
for a job, and for whatever reason you're on holiday with your family, or there is, sadly, that for that job there's 200 applications and you're working
Sure.
through them one by one. First of all, can a candidate reach out to you in the process? Oh, by the way, sir, I'm following up. I applied for 3 days ago, but I didn't hear back yet. I just want to make sure you got it. And, are you, I think from the previous questions we've asked today to you,
Yeah.
probably you're okay with this if it's done in the right way. And
Mm.
then I'm going to take it a step further with something that I see happening, but I think is done, sadly for candidates, I think it's done very incorrectly, which is, let's say a candidate is rejected. Are you open to them treating this almost like an objection handling exercise where they come back and say, hey, Syed, I totally understand why you rejected me. However, I'd love
Yeah.
to challenge that because, and what I'm seeing a lot lately, and the reason I'm asking this is I'm seeing a lot of candidates get frustrated when they are rejected, and they will actually, without any point of turning, they just want to show that they are angry, which for me, sadly, candidates, it's just not winning the battle. But I do think candidates should feel empowered enough to say, thank you for your decision. Can i question that for a second? i
Yeah.
think there's
Sure.
i think there's much said. Well, like, what about yours? So I know that was a long-winded question, which is one about
Mm.
follow-ups in general. When is too much pestering, when is too much pushing a candidate to you, like a candidate writing you every day? And then, are you open to candidates kind of questioning your decision?
Yeah, I'll try to answer this latter first, and
Yep.
the first half in the latter part of my answer.
Yep.
Um, to answer your question, challenge. Think about it. Most of the companies have a few rounds of interviews that folks have to get
Yeah.
through to get a job. It's usually three, four, in some cases five and beyond. When you get to the round four and round five, you have eliminated a lot of the red, yellow flags, or you've tried to
Yeah.
ascertain whether or not this candidate is good because that's how you've gotten that far. And if you're at round five, final round, or what have you, and you are getting a rejection, I think if you're not challenging that rejection in a polite way, like you said, not like,
Yeah.
screw
Yeah.
you just lost a candidate. You're not Muhammad
Yeah.
Ali.
Yeah.
Remember that you're asking for something, which is a job. True, you're going to be working together, but there's a polite way to approach it, which is like, hey, Mick, Saeed, I'd
Yep.
love to have a call with you because I feel like that this decision, you don't have all the facts at hand. But if there's another
Yeah.
candidate on the line, I love to be able to understand what is it about that candidate that you like more than me, because I think
Yeah.
that I can do it. Maybe it can be, look, I need this job, not because the fact that I want the money, but because I want to work here. So help me
Yeah.
understand. Maybe it's a whatever experience I don't have, I'll try leveling up. Whatever that is, you can hash that out
Yeah.
on the call. I take
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
as a positive because for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like sales, right? Like a lot of my things are partially tied to my career. It's because I've learned these tactics, which is a no is never an, it's no is a no, sure, at times, but no just usually means, along with an explanation, that there is a point that you could clarify, right? If
Yep.
I would have just said,
Yep.
okay, great, you don't want to go ahead with us, I wouldn't have made a lot of
Yeah.
the sales that I've made in my career.
Yeah.
So you can gently push back, question it. I'd have more respect for that particular person, frankly. Like, why not?
Agreed.
If you can
Agreed.
do that, and again, it comes back to the self awareness side of things. Is like, dude, like, crap. Like, it's not about how do I avoid a bad hire. You start thinking like, am I not identifying an exceptional person here? Because how many people in the face of no would stand up and say,
Yes.
you know what, I want to get another shot at this.
And this is like very. I had a candidate recently who we didn't move forward with, and I thought that was very impressive that the rejections I gave them, they kind of challenged. They said, "Hey, listen, I know that you thought like you're looking for someone with more experience. By the way, I do have that experience.
Yeah,
It's probably a little bit on them that it didn't come out in the recruitment, but
sure,
still, that came
sure,
from better questions, let's say,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's why I think every interview should kind of end with, what do you not know about me as a candidate,
100%.
let's say.
100%.
But
And
also what I was impressed with, they said, oh, by the way, Mick, like, um, you know, I want to be considered in the future. And, do you know if you see anyone else hiring for similar roles, please, like we always say this, when a customer says they can't buy a product, that doesn't have to be the end of the conversation. You can ask for a
no.
commitment to the next person. You
Yeah.
can ask what was their decision, etc. So it's the really nice, smart logic of you get to decide what you take away from a recruitment process.
Sure.
If it's not a job, there's still a bunch of other value you can take from a
100%.
process, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe again, like I said, a lot of our styles are skewed because of predominantly
Yeah.
due to the fact that we have done certain jobs, and that's okay. This is not a esoteric skills or a godlike
Yeah.
feature that only you and I possess. That is something
Mm-mm.
you can do. You
Mm.
can literally use AI for that. You can try to
Yeah.
push
Yeah.
back in a gentle, polite. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways. You just have to have that will. You especially should, specifically if you spend few hours going over the recruitment
Yeah.
process with a particular. I think that's the least thing that you can do. And the second thing, which I wanted to answer,
Yeah.
was the first part of your question.
Yeah.
Look, I consider this again a privilege, and maybe I'm looking at it from a different lens. But like, I have a privilege to manage people. It is
Mm-hmm.
sincerely a privilege. It is a privilege to get to wake up and help people. Like literally, that's all I do. I
Mm-hmm.
serve people. And
Yep.
it's not like some made up way of like importance. It's just that that's my job, is to make sure these people excel at theirs, because they in turn make me look good because I don't
Mm-hmm.
have that many
Yeah.
skills other than the fact that I could manage these people for the most part.
Sure.
But if you're wanting to work with people and you're on a holiday, it's just a message that might mean nothing to you, or a slight frustration.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you should answer while you're driving. Well, if we
Yeah. Yeah.
sit
Yeah. Yeah.
down
Yeah.
9:30, 10, we all check our laptops, we all check our phones. I
Yep.
know we do. It's just our DNA because we're ingrained. You can
Yep.
answer that message because that message would lower the cortisol levels in that person and say, hey man, sorry I didn't get back to you. I'm on a holiday, but you're on my
Mm-hmm.
radar. I'll get back to you.
Gotcha.
Politeness, being gentle, and empathy goes far, goes very far. And I
Sure.
think like somebody once told me, and unfortunately I learned that very late in my career, is that you catch a lot more flies and bees with honey as opposed to vinegar. And
Sure.
you can just be empathetic, especially with what's going on.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned, talked about SmartJobs and everything. There's just so much animosity in the hiring
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Be a little bit more nicer, I think, would be good.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm thinking, like, candidates, you are probably getting the best version of a hiring manager right now in this episode, because I think, yeah, I mean, so I mean, again, I agree. I know that it will be super interesting as we go through more episodes with more leaders about this, because I
Mm,
think a lot of leaders do have that fear that, okay, if this person is pushing me right now, that if I hire them, they're going to be a pain for me. Now, don't get me wrong. In some cases, that's what you should have. You want
sure.
employees that are going to push you, that are going to ask for follow-ups, etc. But I do know that some hiring managers are afraid of this. So I do know that's why I think for candidates, like, if I ask after 2 days, did you get my application? I think it's one of those, and that's why, again, the whole reason for this series for people listening is, sadly, we will not find a script for every role, for every manager. For every manager that
Yeah,
will see it as a plus, probably there will be someone that sees it as like, oh, they're already following up, I'm going to pass. But what I do want people to know is, well, if you want to get hired by Syed or someone with your mentality,
sure. Yeah.
go for it. Yeah, ask the question. It's so much better than not knowing, in my opinion.
Yeah, stop overthinking. Like this is the exact
Yeah,
thing that frustrates me about hiring, is that we have built
sure.
these invisible guardrails. Oh, you shouldn't do this, you
Yeah,
shouldn't do that. Dude, do you want an update? Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ask me the
That's
goddamn question. Go get an
yeah,
update. Like that's all there is to. I follow up with my kid's school, with my car dealership, to the guy that who's doing Costa Brokova and like, I don't care, dude.
yep,
Just ask the question. Like,
yep,
if you're that hoity-toity of a manager where you're so displeased by the fact that somebody's following up with you, you probably don't want to work for that manager to begin with. And kudos to them who do it. Great. I wish you all the best. just follow up. Just ask, what's the big deal? Somebody asked you a question. Somebody pushed you back. Your ego heart got hurt. No, just what's the big deal? That's what employees are there. They're not robots. The amount of times I was about to make a bad decision and that got averted because people pushed back. That's the best environment that you can create in any company when people push back and they don't accept your version of it because you're not, sorry to break this,
Hmm.
you're not a
Yeah.
shaman. You don't
Yeah. Yeah.
have a Palantir from Lord of the Rings in front of you. You don't know all the things. And that's okay because these people are on the front lines doing the job. Pushing back is important. There needs to be a healthy balance. That is on you, of course. The onus is on manager to create that environment. But yeah, follow up. I don't care. Like text me. I'm not like I haven't reached Elon Musk's status yet. So like for me, far
Yeah.
away.
No, I mean, I think, and when I look at this again, and I think, like, I always think about myself being in a point of privilege, which is my advice to everyone has always been: take the job you want to be in.
Sure.
Yeah. But of course, with society these days, I think the reason why we've overcomplicated all these kind of things is most candidates, we are trying to be the person the hiring manager wants us to be, and not enough
Yeah.
being ourselves. So if you are like, I'd love to ask that question, but I think that
Sure.
person won't like it, so I won't do it. The the real advice is, well, ask anyway, because you need to find that out now rather than 6 months down the line when you're in the job that you're like, but it's an easy thing to say. I know that many people are on the job market right now. They need
Oh
any
yeah.
job, but I still don't think that most people that go for any job, they don't really last for one way or another. So in the ideal scenario, I
Mm,
think I fully agree with your advice side, which is you should do what matches your character. Yeah. You should ask if you want to ask. You should be polite if you want to be polite. And if your answer is, I don't need to know right now, don't ask.
mm.
It's not a test in most cases. We are overthinking the process. So
Yeah, yeah.
Syed, to come to wrap up, I've got a question for
Sure.
you. I know that I sent these to you very early this morning, so you might have time. But I want to wrap up every episode, which is, what are the three pieces of advice you would give to someone who wants to be hired by you? Yeah,
Mm.
so three simple pieces of advice for anyone that in the future, if you're hiring or even if you're not, what are the three pieces of advice you'd give to someone who wants to work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the most important would be do your homework. Like when you're
Hmm.
reaching out, because the chances are it's kind of like I treat it as there's a lot of overlap with sales here. Your cold email is just a cold email without any research done. Chances of it landing in the spam folder or trash very high. But if you do your research and you reach out to me, like I would appreciate that. And I do watch your video and I do watch the message that you send out. And it's always the considerate folks. If you're considerate up to that point, chances are the 30, 40, 50 or an hour minutes that we will spend together are going to be considered and we'll get to find out a lot more. So that's one thing. Don't be afraid. The second part is just don't be afraid of just like do the easy apply. Sure, if that's the way you want to go, but don't be afraid of reaching out to people. Here's a trick that I wish more people know. Every CEO, and I know Adrian and
Hmm.
Mateusz, Greg, whomever you pick, Dave, every CEO that you reach out to, will forward the email over to the right hiring manager. They always do that. Hey, like,
Yeah.
by the way, Saeed, that person reached out, look interesting. I don't know, your call, whatever. I'm just pushing that out. And the onus now is on the hiring manager and go, crap, I just got it from, even if you don't want to reply,
Yeah.
you're like, shit, hey, HR,
Yeah.
did you look at this person? Did you do that? Because
Yeah.
99 other people did not do it out of the 100 that did apply. Don't be afraid. And don't be afraid to try to climb up the ladder, specifically for roles that are sales driven, like sales or customer facing. You can find just about everybody's email. Mick is on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter.
Yep.
I think you shared the example of the candidate. Sorry, I forgot her name. She used Brand
Yeah.
24's
Gloria. Yeah. Yeah.
phones.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
eh,
Yeah.
don't be afraid.
Yeah.
There's no shame in it. We all have had jobs, and we will potentially have jobs in the future, and we're all looking for one. Try that out, 100%. And I guess the third, which is something we've already discussed, do and ask and feel the way you feel and operate instead of trying to be a fictional version of yourself that ChatGPT or Claude tell you to be. That's a sure shot way of
Hmm.
being miserable. It's kind of like trying to find a life partner by asking questions that are like designed and curated by artificial intelligence. Be yourself. I'm hiring you for you. You've had multiple jobs in the past. They hired you most likely for you. And if you stayed for 3, 4 years, it's because of you. a lot of the gigs that I got in my life, like the wildest stories of how I got them, sure, luck played a big role. Luck got me through the door, but it's hard work that kept me there and myself that kept me there. So if there is an indicator or a litmus test that you're looking for where you're questioning yourself, the good idea when you're talking to me in future, just be yourself. Like it's you that I'm interested in. You're the common denominator. The job is just there. And if we have a good fit and we have a good conversation and you are hardworking and you can prove yourself to be, let's give it a shot. I think the highlight, the thing you said, and it's absolutely right. There's a human behind this thing, man. We all bleed. We all make shitty
Hmm.
like there's a lot. And I at least think about these things a lot
Yeah.
because it took me a long time to understand the position that I or many managers have. It is a it is a privilege. So believe me, when you reach out with those things in mind,
Hmm.
like you got my time, you definitely have my attention.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I love those three things, and I think that that's a great takeaway for people. I mean, that's like the one misconception I think on the market right now is that candidates think that hiring companies, hiring managers have all the power. And what you've got to remember is, as a candidate,
Yeah.
this is a painful experience for the hiring manager as well. I promise you. They may look cool and calm on the other side of the
Oh yeah,
table. They may think that you may feel like they're like, loving life because they have 50 candidates. I promise you that they are not. And
no,
what they are looking for is they are hiring because they have a pain. They have a hole in their department or in their company that
hundred
they
percent.
need to fill. And they are, s- they are hoping that one candidate will make this decision easy. Before every interview, I'm
Preach.
like, be the one. Be the one. Like you make my life easy. I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to meet 30 people. I don't want to have
I mean,
25 interviews.
if I need to, sure, but if
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could avoid it and go about my day, I would
Exactly.
absolutely choose that option.
Exactly. Make me
10
feel
out of 10
good
times.
about this process, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I've had to make recruitments in the past where they've been risks. And yeah, okay, I'm like you. I like the underdog. I like it. But when the recruitments, when I walk out, I'm like, yes, that is the person. That's what we want from you, candidates. We want you to help us as well. It's not a power game. And yes, I'm sure
Yeah.
out there are those hiring managers that are a little bit douchey that use it as a power play.
Plenty.
They are, but they are not the majority. And hopefully
No.
throughout this interview series, you will see it. But Syed, listen, thank you so much. Like I said to people listening, this is a cheat sheet to be hired by Syed or similar characters out there. I think many people in sales roles, specifically sales leadership roles, they will have similar vibes. So if you are applying for a job in sales or looking for a job in sales, a lot of what Syed has said, I have no doubts are the way to play and the advice to take, which is to be yourself and be curious, etc. So, Syed, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you're listening to the show, please click like and subscribe if you want to see the other episodes. Our goal is, as always, to make recruitment a little bit easier for you as candidates. So, Syed, thank you so much again, buddy.
Thank you, Mick.
Super valuable.
Appreciate it.